This is the Holy Gospel according to Luke, the 4th chapter.
Glory to you, Lord.
Then Jesus began to say to all in the synagogue in Nazareth, "Today this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." All spoke well of him and were amazed at the gracious words that came from his mouth. They said, "Is not this Joseph's son?" He said to them, "Doubtless you will quote to me this proverb, 'Doctor, cure yourself.' And you will say, 'Do here also in your hometown the things that we have heard you did at Capernaum.' And he said, 'Truly I tell you, no prophet is accepted in the prophet's hometown. But the truth is, there were many widows in Israel in the time of Elijah, when the heaven was shut up 3 years and 6 months, and there was a severe famine over all the land. Yet Elijah was sent to none of them, except to a widow at Zarephath in Sidon. There were also many lepers in Israel in the time of the prophet Elisha, and none of them was cleansed except Naaman, the Syrian." When they heard this, all in the synagogue were filled with rage. They got up, drove him out of the town, and led him to the brow of the hill on which their town is built, so that they might hurl him off the cliff. But he passed through the midst of them and went on his way. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Christ. Please be seated.
So this morning we are doing the sermon a little bit differently. Thank you. We're doing the sermon a little bit differently. Pastor Nick and I are going to have a conversation about the gospel reading that we just heard. So, Pastor Nick,
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today. You come from an organization called Samaritas, which is formerly Lutheran Social Services in Michigan. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Thank you.
That mic is muted, and I'm not sure why you're not coming through on the bell mic.
Okay. Oh, there we go. I'll talk extra loud. Now you can hear me. This morning, we hear in our gospel reading a story of Jesus returning back to his hometown in Nazareth, and we hear kind of a surprising lesson. The people in his hometown drive him to a cliff, and they're on the verge of throwing him off. And I imagine some of these people were the same people who brought him up to the temple and were his guides in life. But the message that he gave them quite a shock. And Samaritas, formerly Lutheran Social Services in Michigan, has been in operation for quite a long time. And I imagine over the course of your history, long, fruitful history, there have been some challenges that have come up, some roadblocks. If you would please, we'd be curious to hear about Samaritas as an organization and some roadblocks that have come up for you over the history.
Absolutely. First, I do want to say, though, I grew up in Ann Arbor and I went to Eastern Michigan, so I'm hoping not to offend anybody and get rolled off a cliff now that I'm kind of back home today. But we have quite a history. It started 100 years ago. In 1919, there was a Lutheran pastor in Ohio, who got in his car with his wife and his 2 daughters and drove to Michigan. The story also says that there was a chicken coop on top. I always feel bad for the chickens, the idea of driving that whole distance on top of the car. But in the pastor's name, I promise I'm not making this up, it almost sounds too German Lutheran to be true, but his name was Pastor Martin Luther Frederick. That's a real name. But they came up here because he felt the call to do ministry. And the reason that he drove to Detroit to do ministry is because in 1919, Detroit was one of the wealthiest, fastest growing cities on the planet. And it's important, I think, for us to remember. It was 100 years ago. Detroit is where all the money and the jobs were. The other thing that it reminds us is it has a parallel to today. Because you went there because it was wealthy and because it was growing, and it's during times of great wealth and great growth that people are forgotten the most. When we're not all feeling the pinch, people can easily be forgotten. And it's good to remember that today at a time when, even with the high volatility of the stock market, the market continues to be near new highs with record unemployment rates across the country and so on. It's a good reminder for us to continue to look and say, we know that maybe we know some people that are hurting, but there are more people than we might remember. So then he started pulling congregations together in 1919 behind a mission. Our mission is serving people as an expression of the love of Christ. And so we pulled people together, and in 1934, we officially founded ourselves. So Pastor Alex mentioned that before we were Samaritas, we used to be Lutheran Social Services of Michigan. But before that, we used to be the Lutheran Charities. Before that, we were the Lutheran Intermission League. So Samaritas is just a lot easier to say, and it usually takes off about 2 minutes worth of the sermon, so it's just nice and short. But we started in 1934 then with our first adoption. And now, 85 years later, we are the large, and I say we, including you, because this is a ministry of our churches. Our bishop sits on the board of directors. We are the largest private foster and adoption agency in the entire state of Michigan. That's what we do as a church. Then we got into the 40s, and at the end of World War II, 1/4 of all Lutherans in the world were refugees, were fleeing war, fleeing the devastations of war. That was 1/4 of us just 70-some years ago. And so now, all those years later, we are the largest resettlement agency in the entire state of Michigan, 4th largest in the nation, helping people escape persecution and terror. We also went into senior living, so we have senior living communities across the state, as well as affordable living communities for seniors who are on low and fixed incomes. We want people to retire with dignity and honor, and so these senior living communities have things like fireplaces and raised bed gardens and libraries. So the closest one to here would be Sequoia Place over on North Maple in Ann Arbor. We also have services for persons with disabilities in different counties. Home health services have started to grow and are coming into Washtenaw County now. We have a homeless family center for homeless families in Westland. It's on the old Eloise State Hospital campus, which we're going to expand to serve even more people. And the great thing about this family center is that where most shelters, men and women, are separated for security reasons, which means that the kids are almost always separated from their dad. We have 24 rooms where families are kept together and they can heal together. And so last year, 71% of the people who went through there went on to permanent housing. Not another shelter or not a person's house other than their own. 71% permanent housing. We also help women who are coming out of prison, as well as survivors of human trafficking. And throughout all of these things, we continue to face, as we're talking about obstacles, sometimes there's confusion about the work that we do, sometimes funding gets cut, whatever else, but we do all this work because we're driven by that mission of serving people as an expression of the love of Christ.
Well, that's amazing. How many people does Samaritas help every single year?
So last year we served around 16,000 people. We were just rated as I believe it's the 4th largest nonprofit in the state of Michigan. Not even faith-based, just 4th largest nonprofit. And I think it's important to remember, this is a ministry of our church. This is something that our church has built and we do because we're driven by this desire to be the good Samaritans, hence our name, Samaritas, and to live out the gospel.
So with all of the programs and ministries and the people that you serve, I'd love to hear a success story from
Yeah, one of my favorite ones is about a young girl. We call her Rebecca. That's not not her real name, but it's, somebody we serve, we change her name. Rebecca is one of the up to 60 foster kids that we send over to Stony Lake Lutheran Camp every year. Did anybody here go to Stony Lake as a kid or send somebody maybe? That's where I went to when I was at Zion Lutheran in Ann Arbor growing up. That's where I went to confirmation camp. And so we send up to 60 foster kids to have one of the best weeks of their summer and really one of the best weeks of their lives. And so Rebecca went, and she had trouble falling asleep the first night because she didn't have her comfort noise. She didn't have that noise that, many of us have a comfort noise that we need to hear and that it tells us it's time to go to bed. Does anybody here have a comfort noise you want to just share with us? What is your comfort noise? What do you want to hear when you go to bed?
Fan.
A fan, okay, fan.
I said crashing waves last service, but
Yeah.
I'm going to say the sound of rain.
The sound of rain. Yeah, crashing waves, sound of rain, that kind of goes together.
Yeah.
I like that. Some people, I tell people that I have the bad habit of needing the TV, which means my wife has the bad habit of marrying somebody who needs the TV. Keeps her up a little bit. Well, what was Rebecca's comfort noise? What told her it's time to relax and go to bed?
Traffic noise.
Yeah, it was the sound of violence. It was the sound of people hurting each other with their words and their actions. What does that do to a child when that's what triggers, I'm going to take a deep breath and fall asleep now. So here's Rebecca in this cabin, listening to the leaves rustle up above, coming from the breeze from Lake Michigan less than a mile away. The kind of thing that many of us spend a year and a small fortune just to experience for a few days. And on top of that, she was in a cabin that was unlocked. And she grew up in a house that had locks, more to protect you from the people in the home than outside the home. So it was hard for her that first night. The second night, still difficult, got a little better. After the third night, she said she had the best sleep of her entire life. By the end of the week, she was telling us that she knew that life could be better, that all of that pain and that misery that she had experienced growing up didn't have the final say. Isn't that really what we're talking about when we talk about what Jesus has done for us? It doesn't have the final say. Death, it's real, doesn't have the final say. Sin, it's real, but it doesn't have the final say. And so for Rebecca, here she is because a bunch of people like us sent her, who are probably never going to meet her this side of heaven, sent her to camp, no strings attached, because we have a God who loves us, no strings attached. And now Rebecca knows that she has a God who loves her, no strings attached. And when she's out there, there's a community that will be there to support her as she grows into adulthood. If she goes to Eastern Michigan University, she knows about Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Last week I was up in Mount Pleasant. They also have an Emmanuel Lutheran Church, and if she goes to Central Michigan, she knows where to go find somewhere. If she's in Traverse City, she knows to look for Bethlehem Lutheran Church, and so on. That's the kind of impact that we have. And what amazes me about this is, these scholarships, they're $550 per kid, which can feel like a lot, but the impact is unbelievable. Actually, the kids up at St. Paul Lutheran Church in Alpena have been so inspired by this that the kids this last year raised $2,900 to send, I think around 5 kids to camp. It's an amazing thing to see how life can be changed, not just for the better, but in her case, forever.
Yeah, really touching, real life application of our faith.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
As we grow in ministry together, as we get to know you and other organizations in the area, what are some ways that we can support Samaritas and all that you do?
The most important, powerful thing is prayer. Prayer fuels this ministry. It's not easy work. So I mentioned Rebecca's story, but as we also said, even though that's her own story and it's unique to her, there's 16,000 stories in here. 16,000 people that we get to serve. They need your prayers because they are in some pretty rough situations. Not everybody, but a lot of people are when we find them. You know, and as the Good Samaritans, we see them there in the ditch, and we get them out of the ditch, and we bring them to the inn, and we help them heal, and that's not easy work. And so we have around 2,000 staff members who need your prayers as well. I get to come out and tell the story. There are people that live and breathe the pain of these other people's lives day in and day out. So please pray in your small groups, pray during worship, pray during when you gather together to do service projects. We need your prayers. I mentioned, of course, there's scholarships that can be given to support. I think you all have offering envelopes to Samaritas. We really focus on being good stewards of these resources. About 7% of all of our revenue goes to overhead. 1% is in our marketing piece. 92 cents on the dollar goes directly into the programming to serve people. Because as a faith-based organization, we know it's not our money. It belongs to God, but it really is there to serve other people. And so I can tell you firsthand, we don't have big loaded salaries to do this work. Like some, you hear about those horror stories with nonprofits, but that helps a lot. And then, of course, the third thing, I invite you to dream. What's on the heart of you as a congregation? Who are the people that you want to serve? Is it homeless families? Well, we can find ways for you to plug in with that. Is it children? Is it people escaping persecution? Is it seniors? Whatever it is, who are those people that seem to come up in conversation and in prayers? Because we can all dream with one another and find ways that the people of Emmanuel can uniquely live out that mission of serving people as an expression of the love of Christ.
Thank you, Nick. It's inspiring to hear your stories and the work that you do, and thank you for your work in the church and through the Synod, the Southeast Michigan Synod. And as we conclude our sermon today, I would love to offer up a prayer, if I could. So, let us pray. Dear gracious and loving God, you give us the gift of new life. A life where death never has the final word. We are a resurrection people. And as a church, we look to make new connections to your love and to your life. Bless the ministry of this church and bless the ministry of Samaritas as we work together. And all we pray in your holy name. Amen. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.